It's time!
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet.
Hello, and welcome to the TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down on.
What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to another week's edition of Strikes and Submissions here. My name is Dorian Wright, along with my co-host Michael Daly. Mike, how you feeling tonight?
I'm pumped. I am pumped. We're at the tail end of the year. Obviously, it's December. It's December 9th to be exact. The tail end of the year. The final pay-per-view card for the UFC. Boxing is coming to a close for the year as well. So we have a ton to talk about. I am pumped. I'm sure you are too.
Yes, sir. And of course, guys, first and foremost, make sure we subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're doing great over here. And also make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss out on any of our live shows or news that we break here. But Mike, let's dive straight into it. We got the sweet science of boxing. Devin Haney defended his WBC lightweight title against Jojo Diaz. Close fight, real back and forth, but overall, Haney got the unanimous decision. What were your overall takeaways from the fight?
It was a clinical performance. This was the Devin Haney that everyone knew existed, but against someone like Jojo Diaz, would that version of Devin Haney show up in Las Vegas? The jury was out heading into that fight. It was. But he delivered. He managed to stay away from any danger. Yeah, there were times where Diaz hit him, but it wasn't a real clipping. It wasn't any heavy shots. No. Haney showed technically he is the superior boxer, which everyone knew beforehand, but he was able to cultivate it in the ring that night, and he showed that all of his hard work was for naught. Everything he did throughout his career led up to that point, because Dorian, that was the hardest test of his career. I would say heading into that fight, you're facing a former 2-time champion who's still young. The difference in that fight and Linares is that Linares was 35 when they fought. He wasn't a spring chicken. Jojo Diaz, yes, he's been in the game a long time, but he's only a few years, not even a few years removed. He was the interim titleist in the lightweight division. So he was going up against a guy who was close to him in age, and Devin Haney showed why he might be the very best 135-pound boxer on the planet.
Absolutely. I thought Haney looked really good. I thought he obviously didn't get the knockout, weren't any knockdowns, but I do think that overall he was just himself. We've seen him just go out, be technical, and just point fight. Do what you got to do, get to the bell, get the job done. I thought he looked actually really, really good. But I did think it was a bit closer than the cards may have indicated. I did think it was unanimous, but I did give a few more rounds, at least watching it live, to Jojo Diaz. But overall, none to take away. Wasn't a robbery by chance. And I see here, we have some news maybe breaking. It's on the fence. They're looking at Devin Haney going up against Kambosos to unify the belts. What do you think about that fight? A little early prediction.
I think Devin Haney should get a decision victory. George Kambosos shocked the world. He did. I always knew about George Kambosos being a top flight contender, but I didn't think he'd be able to beat Teofimo Lopez. He shocked me, like I said, shocked everybody. Devin Haney, I think, had a wake-up call last weekend, and he needed Teofimo Lopez to lose his fight. That may sound very odd, but Devin Haney, I think, benefited the most because he saw that Teofimo Lopez didn't have it together the Saturday after Thanksgiving against George Kambosos. Now, if Haney and Kambosos were to fight, he would have it all together because look what he just did to Jojo Diaz. He was on upset alert, but heading into this fight, or this potential fight, I should say, he knows everything that Kambosos is capable of. He's ready for it. Kambosos is somebody, you cannot bully him. You cannot walk him down because guess what? He's going to either pivot right or left, have some nice footwork, and try to walk you down. Devin Haney, whatever you throw at him, he is phenomenal at adjusting and being very malleable in the ring. That is something that I think he's better than anyone in the 135-pound division other than Lomachenko. But the one telling part of this fight is the location. I don't know where it's going to be, but there is a chance that it will be held in Australia. And if it does, be on the lookout of those scorecards. That's all I'm saying. If you remember, Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, many people thought Manny Pacquiao won. It was a close fight, but Pacquiao should have won. The scorecards did Pacquiao in. Haney, the American, trying to unify the belts, it could be a problem for him if it's a close fight, which I anticipate it to be.
Yeah, hopefully it's a neutral location, or maybe a location in just which the judges aren't, 80 years old. And Floyd actually came out and said, we got to get rid of some of these old guys and judging. You're 75, 80 years old. Give it up. Like, you clearly don't see things that, need to be seen in order to score the fight. And I guess we can transition that into our next topic here. Obviously, Floyd's protege, Gervonta Tank Davis, faced off against the Pitbull Cruz, Isaac Cruz. So very close fight as well. But again, I believe, and the judges also thought that Tank did enough to win, but Cruz thought it was a bad decision. A lot of fans thought it was a bad decision. And Floyd had to come out and look, just because he doesn't knock someone out doesn't mean he lost. Tank is a boxer's boxer. He is fundamental. He has all the things that you'd want in a boxer. And if you can't appreciate that, then maybe you don't deserve to watch Tank. But overall, what were your takeaways from that fight?
Anyone who thought Cruz won that fight just loves a good underdog story. I understand it. He didn't win. I had it 8-4. Could have been 9-3. Cruz was competitive. And the reason why I think people won is because he went the entire fight. No one expected that to happen. I know you and I talked about it last week. We said this is going to be a more challenging fight for Davis than it would be if Gervonta Davis would have fought Rolando Romero. This was going to be a tougher fight, but it's Gervonta Davis we're talking about. Everyone expected him to close the show because he had done that 16 consecutive times heading into that. But Isaac Cruz is not to be played with. I will say, because you brought up Floyd, I don't know what was more entertaining, the fight itself or Floyd after the fact, defending Gervonta, and then for no reason hitting Canelo Alvarez with a stray bullet, saying, oh, Canelo's easy work. You guys like to prop up Canelo, act like he's so... You know what, Floyd? I love you. You're the greatest of all time. But if he's so easy, at 44, you go fight Canelo in his current stage, and let me know how that goes.
Hey, I mean, the points he was making, though, made sense. Now, aside from the steroid thing, I'm not going to touch that because it was disproven. It was proven. Who knows with that? But what is facts? Floyd did walk Canelo. And now you can say Canelo was young, but that Canelo then and the Canelo now, similar fighters. And you can tell he took a little bit of Floyd's sauce defensively. He has a little bit of the head movement that Floyd used to beat him. So, I mean, Floyd has every right. Look, when you're retired undefeated, you can talk about whoever, whenever, however you want, especially if you beat them. Floyd's in that category, man. Him, Habib, and, there's not too many, John Jones maybe. There's not too many other guys who are inactive and can just point at other great legendary who we, pound for pound number one, we have Canelo as. So, hey, y'all pound for pound number one, he easy work. Tank better than him. Y'all should pay more attention to the younger fighters, the lighter fighters. And I think that was the point Floyd was trying to make. I don't think it was just to throw shots at Canelo. It's the smaller fighters don't get their just due. If you say Canelo's pound for pound number 1 and Tyson Fury's number 2 or whatever, however you have it, you have to have Tank. You have to have Terrence Crawford. You have to have Devin Haney. You have to have those guys up there as well. Just because they're smaller, you got to give them the credit that they deserve, honestly.
Dorian, that's fine. That's all well and good. I agree with Floyd. Gervonta Davis is a top 5 pound for pound fighter. I'm not disputing that. But there's no need to throw shots at Canelo. I'm sorry. Because look, Canelo was 31, and when Floyd fought Canelo, he was 36. If Canelo now and that Floyd would have fought at a catch weight, Canelo's catching a body. I'm sorry. I don't care. Canelo, with everything he knows,
pounds on Floyd now is different now.
That's what I'm saying. But that fight was a catch weight. Floyd purposely made Canelo cut an extra 2 pounds to get to 152, and Floyd stayed under 150, even though it was 152, the weight limit. With everything Canelo knows now, or, you know what, take the weight out. Just in terms of the boxer Canelo is, Canelo's getting a knockout over a 36-year-old Floyd Mayweather. I'm sorry, because Marcos Maidana, 8 months later, had Floyd hurt. 3 years before he fought Canelo, Shane Mosley had Floyd on wobbly legs. You're telling me this Canelo wouldn't do that to that Floyd? He would. He would hurt Floyd in any era.
I mean, he had the chance to do so, and he didn't.
He was 23.
Yeah, but that's the point I think Floyd's trying to drive home. Tank's what, 24, 25? And he's running through guys, knocking dudes out left and right, and he gets a decision win, and people think he lost. No, he won. The fact is, You have these young guys in their early 20s who come. Tank won a belt at 21.
Yeah, 21.
He's one of the youngest champions ever, I believe. So when you factor that in, yeah, Canelo was 22. Floyd was an older vet. He made him cut weight. He made this. He made that. At the end of the day, they stepped in. I almost said the octagon. They stepped in the ring, and Floyd did what he always does. He makes people look like they are less than themselves. So, yeah, of course, the Canelo today is better than the Canelo that fought Floyd. But if we're just in a vacuum, if we could take this Canelo and another catch weight with 150-pound Floyd, maybe 160. I don't even know if Floyd has ever weighed 160 in his career or his life. But if we could do that, I don't think the result would be any different.
Just say you would take 2016 Canelo when he was at 154, which was Floyd's weight division, by the way. At that point in time, that Canelo would have fought a more competitive fight. 2016 Canelo, like when he beat Liam Beefy Smith. I don't know if you remember that. When he knocked Beefy Smith out with a body shot. That version of Canelo at 154, 3 years removed from his first fight with Floyd, would have been a much more competitive fight against a 36-year-old Floyd. I'm not even saying a retired Floyd. I'm saying a Floyd after he went from HBO to Showtime, where he was still in his prime. Canelo is going to make it a much closer fight, and he may have even won in 2016 if they were to have fought. In terms of, I know I'm nitpicking here. I know I'm doing a lot of what ifs, but you can't throw shots at someone like Canelo, who essentially Floyd said he's cherry picking Mukabu, the 200-pound champion. That's not fair either. Are you really going to criticize somebody? Because look, if Badu Jack, who was Floyd's fighter, decided, you know what? I'm at light heavyweight now. Enough's enough. I'm going to jump up to cruiserweight. You wouldn't be saying that about him. You'd be like, you know what, Badu? Good on you. You're challenging yourself. But it's because it's Canelo. You're going to criticize him? I don't roll with that.
I partially think it's Floyd going at Canelo because he knows he has the one-up on him.
Yeah.
And two, I also think Floyd's just trying to put his fighter over. And if you can use a name like Canelo, it's going to get me and you to talk about it.
But that's not right. Tank's great in his own right. Tank does not need to be mentioned with Canelo. He doesn't.
I see where you're coming from. He doesn't need it. You're absolutely right. And Floyd said it. Hey, when they were talking about Ryan Garcia, he said, look, he said Tank got his followers kicking ass.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Garcia got his followers on YouTube and Instagram. It's a difference.
Right.
So I get where he's coming from with that. But nowadays, in an era where already the guys who are at Tank's weight division don't want to fight him, the champions don't want to fight him, you have to continue to build Tank's name. And if you can grab Canelo, because they'll never fight, we know that. So if you can grab him and just pull him back, if Canelo says anything about Tank or Floyd, or if Canelo responds, it's a win. And it's more popularity for Tank. It's getting more fans for Tank. So I get where Floyd's coming from. And if anybody knows how to market themselves or a fighter, that's the guy I want on my corner, Floyd Money Mayweather.
Floyd is the embodiment of hitting and not getting hit, not just in the ring, but outside of the ring as well. He knows how to throw shots, and it's hard to hit him back because he's undefeated. But you said something here that's valuable. Go at Ryan Garcia all you want. You know why? Because he's in Tank's weight division. And there's a chance down the line, even though I don't think it'll happen, he could fight Tank. Go at him all day. That makes sense. Don't go at Canelo. I'm sorry. What? Because now Canelo is fighting for Showtime or he's a free agent? Now you're going to go at him again when it had nothing to do? Like, my thing here is Gervonta Davis fought the toughest fight of his career, went 12 rounds. That is an impressive feat. There's no need to talk about Canelo. Canelo doesn't matter. That's all I'm saying. If you're Floyd, Canelo doesn't matter. Who cares about Canelo? What matters most is that Gervonta Davis overcame an injured hand and still won the fight against a very game opponent. That's what should have mattered, and that's why I had a problem with what Floyd said.
That's understandable, and I actually agree with you. I do think the fight itself should have been talked about more.
Mm-hmm.
I know, obviously Tank won by decision, but if he didn't have a broken hand, we're nitpicking here, but do you think he really could have knocked Cruz out? Because Cruz was eating a lot of those shots before he started complaining about his hand hurt.
I don't know. I think it definitely would have helped because there were times where Cruz was throwing shots and they weren't landing. And there was a sequence, I think it was in round 8. Gervonta hit Cruz with 2 uppercuts. Anyone else, I think they were going out, regardless of Gervonta's injury. They were going out or at least getting dropped. But Cruz, he's a pit bull. You have to kill him, essentially, to put him away. And even Gervonta couldn't do it.
Yeah. I thought it was a very, very, very good opponent for Tank to have. Granted, the injury aside, I do think it's good for him to get that 12-round experience because let's be real. Floyd will be the first one to tell him, you're not going to knock everybody out. So get used to going to those decisions. Get used to getting booed when you win. You know, Floyd says California and Texas are basically like Mexico. So when you're fighting a Mexican in these states, be prepared to get booed. You know, you're in the Staples Center. Be prepared for these things. So
even Vegas too, to an extent, Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas. And I think that this was a good learning experience for Tank. I think this will only help him go forward. I don't think a rematch is necessary. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, rematch, run it back." For what? You just want Tank to knock this guy out. We don't need that. Let's have Tank move onward and upward. Let's have Tank start to unify some belts. Let's get a Devin Haney. Let's get a Lomachenko. Let's get, Ryan Garcia. Who knows? We'll see in the future. But we can move on away from boxing a little bit. Another review we had last week, Bellator 272. You have Kyoji Horiguchi against Sergio Pettis for the bantamweight strap. I came on here last week and I said, I don't know what Pettis has to do to get a win. I come to you again this week still saying I don't know what he has to do to win because what he did, now I saw on his Instagram, and let me just give some backstory. This is how petty I am. When he won, I was like, okay, good win, crazy knockout, very viral. I went on his Instagram. I'm seeing, okay, because usually fighters will repost some stuff, right? A lot of people, good luck. So they're reposting. I'm clicking through. He was drilling that combination in camp. So I can't call it a fluke. I can't say, oh, this is a lucky shot. He was purposefully missing the head kick and then coming back with the spinning back fist, hitting pads with it. So I'm here just to give Sergio Pettis his flowers and all the credit in the world to him. Obviously, he admitted he was getting dominated the entire fight up until that point. That was the only exchange he really won in the fight. But that's the only exchange you needed in MMA. You need one shot to land, and that's all it took. Flatlines one of the best 35ers we have on the planet, regardless of promotion, and retained his belt. So I kind of spoiled it. But Mike, if you have anything else to say, hey, floor is yours.
You can train it all you want. You could practice it in camp all you want. I do think there is a little bit of luck, because if you watch the fight, which I know you did and I did as well, he was getting dominated. And he was going to lose on the scorecards because it happened in the 4th round. He had no chance to win that fight if it went the distance. Horiguchi was smothering him the entire fight, outboxing him. Even on the ground, he had the upper hand. Like I said, though, you can practice all you want with the spinning back fist where you set it up with the high kick. That's great. But luck, I think, is factored into it, because you were getting destroyed the entire fight. You didn't have any opening. You needed that opening. In camp, you trained as if there was going to be an opening. But with the way the fight was going, there was no guarantee Horiguchi was going to give you that. But he did. I think Horiguchi got a little tired. You could even see it in his face right before the impact happened. He was a little tired. I wouldn't say gassed, but he was definitely out of breath. And that was the perfect timing. But I will say, though, I think there was a little bit of luck. Yes, the training went a long way, but that moment, MMA, you know this, Dorian, it's a split-second industry. Anything can happen in a split second. It's kind of like football, if you think about it. You need a lineman there to protect the quarterback, because the quarterback has to get the ball out in a split second. In MMA, it's sort of similar, because one false move, if you zig when you should have zagged, it's over. And Horiguchi should have zagged when he zigged, and that's why he got hit with the spinning back fist.
And he got zigged for sure.
Yeah.
he wanted to zag. I mean, I do think, there's a proponent of luck that goes into anything, not just sports, just life. You got to be lucky, right situation, right place, right time. So I'll agree with you with that. But as far as technique goes, that was one of the cleanest spinning back fists you'll see. Like, because when he missed the kick, in my head, I'm like, okay, he just missed. Oh, whoa, what was? And like when you see knockouts like that, when guys are flat on their back like this, and they don't get up and scramble. Like, sometimes you see a guy get clipped and they go down and they might try to wrestle the ref or something. You're like, okay, he's knocked out, but he kind of knows he's still in a fight, or he just fought. Horiguchi was out flat, cold, unconscious. That's not luck. That is a trained assassin assassinating people as he is trained to do, and that's exactly what Pettis did. And I know if he were to rewrite the books, rewrite this fight, he wouldn't have it any other way, because it's sweet. He was the underdog. We weren't the only people to pick against him. You know, multiple outlets I've seen had Horiguchi taking the belt, and he was getting beat. He was proving everybody right why Horiguchi was the better fighter. Like you said, split second, until he isn't. And now he's not the better fighter. He's unconscious, and now I'm still the champ. So now what's there to say? There's really nothing we can say as it pertains to Pettis, because the fight, it wasn't a great fight. It was a one-sided beating until a flash knockout. So, again, give credit where it's due. Him and his brother, man, I don't know what it is about these flash knockouts, Mike. If you recall the Wonder Boy fight with Anthony Pettis, just Wonder Boy's piecing him up, and then out of nowhere, Superman punch, Wonder Boy's flat. We've never, that was Wonder Boy's first and only time getting knocked out in combat. And he was like 74-0 as a kickboxer or whatever it was. And he was like, I had no clue. His dad was giving him crap about it, like, how you let a 55er knock you out. But I don't know what it is about him and his brother, just have, I guess, the lucky brothers instead of the Pettis brothers.
You know what's crazy also? 11 years ago this month was the Showtime kick against Benson Henderson. And during that year, that was easily the knockout of the year.
Yeah.
I will go on record now, and I'm curious to see what you feel. I think that was the knockout of the year in 2021. I do. Luck played a part of it. At least in my opinion, it did. But the impact that spinning, it's hard to knock somebody out. It's hard to make contact, let alone drop somebody, let alone knock somebody out via spinning back fist. And Pettis did that. For me, Dorian, that's my knockout of the year.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I have Yuri over Dominic Reyes. That was a crazy spin, another spinning back elbow, I think it was.
Yeah.
We got a few wheel kicks in the UFC, but not main event. So I try to keep it, I try to proportionalize it with this. So obviously this is a title fight, so higher stakes. Yeah.
You got Francis Stipe. That was.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Just folded Stipe, and that hurt to watch. But
Yeah.
I would still get the reason why I would give this one, like you said,
Usman Jorge. Oh,
but see, we need to talk about this. Whether our last show is the 23rd or the 30th, we have to talk about this. We have to bring up candidates, and we have to talk about our winners, because I think Pettis Horiguchi is because at least with Usman Masvidal, Usman was winning the fight, standing up, which shocked a lot of people. He was winning it. Francis Stipe, yes, when the moment happened, it shocked people, but the tide was turning in Francis's favor. Pettis, it came out of nowhere. It came out of left field. He should have lost the fight. He was losing the fight until he hit him with the spinning back fist. And then you look at the aftermath where Horiguchi is just laid out on the canvas.
for a while.
For a while. It was not quick. It was like a boxing knockout. We see that a lot in boxing. We don't really see that in MMA. It was rough. And that's what, for me, that was my knockout of the year.
Yeah, I think we definitely got to, in the last show of the year, we got to do our of the year show. So fight of the year, knockout of the year, submission of the year, round of the year, if we can recall those. But yeah, wow. Now that you say that would definitely rank high on this year's, at least definitely be on the short list. And if we're really just keeping it in title fight, I would say that is the Rose Wei Lee. That's a clean head kick knockout.
Ooh.
That's a clean knock. Like I'm a very technical guy, so I love to see technical, just straight high kick, boom, no telegraph, no tell, just so. Yeah, I got to make a list. I'll get back to you on that one, and we can discuss it for the fans here. But yeah, overall, it was a decent fight actually. But like you said, split second industry, less than a second industry, and your lights can go out. But also that last week we had Rob Font main event, Jose Aldo 5-rounder. UFC, obviously Jose Aldo got the job done with a UD mic. How'd you like that fight, and how'd you see it going?
I was disappointed. And the reason why I was disappointed is because of the way the first round ended. Jose Aldo, similar to Pettis, was losing the first round. That first round was going to Rob Font. Font was hitting him with crisp jabs like we were talking about last week. He was working Jose Aldo. And then the last 15 seconds or so in the first round, Jose Aldo had him hurt, then dropped him. And if there were 10 to 20 more seconds in that round, Jose Aldo would have gotten a first round stoppage. But there weren't. And you have to give Font credit. He continued to fight. He didn't give up. His coaches heading into the 5th round even said, look, you need a stoppage. You are not going to win this fight the way it is currently presented right now. You got to finish this guy. He wasn't able to. I think because Font was dropped in such a vicious and brutal manner in the first round, that took the wind out of his sails, and he had no chance against a Hall of Famer in Jose Aldo. Jose showed you give him an inch, he takes a mile, and he does not give any part of that mile back to you. Jose Aldo, he's still the man. He might not be the champion, might not be a championship contender, but it's really hard to do that to a guy like Rob Font. Look what Rob Font did to Cody Garbrandt. Sent Cody Garbrandt to 125, and Jose Aldo flatlined him more or less on the scorecards.
Yeah, I thought that it was, again, like we were both talking about. First round, Rob Font did exactly what he needed to do. Jab, kept the distance, was just kind of picking Aldo apart. And usually Aldo starts very fast, and he kind of gasses out towards the end of the third. I'm not going to lie, his gassing didn't look great, but it was a lot better than I gave him credit for. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to be honest. And nothing personal, but I picked against Aldo in his last 2 fights against Rob Font and Pedro Munoz. I'm absolutely done picking against Jose Aldo. If he's not fighting the champion or the next superstar sensation, I'm not picking against him, because he just, Hall of Fame career doesn't do it justice. He is a walking legend who is still looking like he's at the tail end of his prime. Like, he doesn't look over the hill. And, you see him lose against Peter Yan. It's like, okay, well, this is the best 35er on the planet right now. So, okay, we're cool with that. And he's beating everybody else. I don't know. I thought he fought a really, really good fight. I do think Rob Font was still landing in the second, third, fourth, and fifth. But like you said, that knockdown really changed the tide, because I think Rob actually took him down once. He had the takedown at the end of the first, and I'm like, okay, Rob's a little wrestler. Okay, cool. So we got boxing and wrestling. He's going to mix it up. And then boom. And I'm like, oh, God. And his face went blank after that. And he said it in the post-fight presser. Aldo has power. And we forget, because, again, he's been in the game so long. Aldo's a natural 45er. He's coming down. He's pulling to make 35. So that knockout power is now translated to his hands from his legs. He used to finish fights via leg kick. He used to just thrash dudes' legs, beat their legs like Gaethje beats him now. But now his power is kind of on his hands now. And he's clipping Font. And Font's one of the best boxers, not only in the division, but in the UFC. And we both said it here. This is going to be a boxing match. This is going to be boxing heaven. And Aldo outboxed him for the most part. He hit the power shots as opposed to just volume punching. I was extremely, extremely impressed by Jose Aldo. I did not think he would 5-0 Rob Font. I don't think anyone on the planet thought he would 5-0 Rob Font. Not even Jose probably didn't think he'd 5-0 him. But, yeah, he did. And just like Pettis, I'm here to apologize and give flowers, because I'm done picking against Jose. Unless he fights Peter Yan, I'll pick against Yan. But other than that, I don't see anybody else beating him.
If Jose fights TJ Dillashaw, you're still picking Jose?
Definitely.
I'm not.
I think that TJ's window to win the championship has passed. And not because of the guys he's fighting is getting better. I just think he's older. He's coming off of, I think he got his shoulders replaced, if I'm not mistaken, while he was suspended. So he had shoulder replacement. Now you come back, first fight back. Now you got a torn knee. And I get it, Sandhagen put him in a little heel hook. So he tore his knee. But I think his body might be breaking down. And given his history with, performance-enhancing drugs, if he's not on that stuff, I can't trust his body to not break down. As opposed to Aldo, who's been fighting for so long. And the only part of his body really broken down are his legs. And people don't leg kick Aldo. He checks them. He just doesn't throw kicks anymore. So I would pick Aldo over TJ right now. Yeah.
For that one, I got to go with TJ just because he impressed me so much with how he fought Sandhagen. And you can throw out the injuries all you want. You can bring that up as a factor to pick against TJ. But TJ was injured heading into the fight with the gash over his eye. Apparently, he had some leg injuries heading into the fight, and then they were just exacerbated in the fight. And he still beat Sandhagen. Right now, I think he beats Aldo. Fully recovered, and he's healthy. I think he beats Aldo. It's a great fight, but Aldo, I think, beats Sandhagen. Aldo beats guys like Dominic Cruz, obviously beats Pedro Munoz because he just did back in August. But Dillashaw, to me, might be next in line for the title. He's right there. He's at that cusp. Jose Aldo, it's going to be tough for him to beat someone like Dillashaw. And the reason why I bring up Dillashaw is because it's rumored that they're going to fight next.
I think that rumor stems simply from TJ and Sandhagen being a number one contenders fight, and the winner of that fight is injured, so you got to shelf him. And then Sandhagen got the interim title shot, which was supposed to go straight to TJ for being real. So it's like, can you really have TJ just fresh off of knee injury step in against either Jan or Sterling? Like, I don't think you can do that anymore. The momentum kind of died down. It was a super razor thin decision to begin with, so people didn't even think he won. I remember we both agreed that he won, but a lot of people, I don't know if you remember, after that fight, didn't really think TJ even won. So yeah, TJ's probably gonna have to win again. And the only guy who's surging right now that it makes sense for him to fight is Jose Aldo. And Jose Aldo is a legend. And if I'm not mistaken, they were rumored to fight, or they were supposed to fight before. And that's when the whole suspension thing kicked in, and then Peter Yan stepped in for the interim belt. So yeah, I think I would pick Aldo in that. I'm done picking against him.
I get it. Yeah, we can move on after this, but I just want to bring that up because it was curious, because those are two guys who, in my opinion, definitely Jose, but TJ is also a Hall of Famer. And it's kind of a classic fight too. This is a fight that probably should have happened in like 2013, but it didn't. But hopefully now we get it.
Yeah, I hope so. And also a deciding factor in that would be if it's a 3 or a 5 rounder. I think simply off the name value, it has to be a 5 rounder.
Yeah.
But if you put that as like a co-main or a third fight before some title fights on a pay-per-view, I don't think anybody would be mad. No. But I definitely think TJ would be able to push harder for 3 rounds than Aldo. But if it's a 5-round fight, I don't know. But yeah, this was a great card overall, not just with Aldo Font. You had the Rafa wheel kick, which over Brad Riddell, which was insanity. I've never seen a grown man ask to not get hit again after he got hit. And all respect to Brad Riddell, I don't mean to be funny, but that's what it looked like to me. Jamal Hill, check right hook. Crazy. Check hook University, stand up. Jamal Hill gets back in the win column. And Clay Guida, to me, that was the performance of the night, because Santos was putting it on him for the first 3 minutes of that first round. Then he kind of sat back and I was going to say got his breath, but he never really recovered. And then Clay Guida chokes him out, which is crazy because for those of you guys who don't know, Leonardo Santos, he is so high level. When he was in the UFC, he was touted super high prospect. He knocked out Kevin Lee, for those who don't know, and injuries kind of held him out. And he's only lost, I think, 2 or 3 times in his career, but especially in like the last like decade. So Leonardo Santos, and again, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Clay Guida chokes him out. It's crazy. Chris Curtis, another ridiculous performance from him. Yeah, we had Manal Kopp, obviously. Some good scraps on this card. But let's get into the meat and grits and potatoes and everything that you guys came to see today. UFC 269, 2 more sleeps. Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, headlined by them, and then Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena for the bantamweight title. Mike, let's dive into the pay-per-view, man. What are your thoughts on it?
Before the show, we actually spoke about it. We said on paper, when this card was first announced and first set up, it was the best card of the year, but some fights fell out. You had the flyweight title fight pushed back a month, and then Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards, the fight everyone has wanted to see, that fell out because of an injury in Masvidal. But it's still a phenomenal card. You have 2 title fights from top to bottom. It is stacked. I know I brought it up to you before the show. The prelim card would be the ideal UFC Fight Night card, because Dan Ige, Josh Emmett that is easily a main event for a fight night. Dominic Cruz, Pedro Munoz, that's a main event for a fight night. And there's several other fights too that could be in that slot just for the prelims. Not even talking about the main event or the main card.
Masa and Sakai could also be a main event. Sakai just headlined with Jairzinho.
Yeah, his last 2 fights, he headlined fight nights against Overeem and then Sakai. Rosenstrike, not Sakai. Top to bottom, it's spectacular. I will say, though, for the 2 championship fights, they couldn't be any different. Because if you look at the main event, it's a pick'em, right? Anyone can really win that fight. You have Oliveira, who might be one of the greatest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in UFC history. Might be. He's that good. And then you have Dustin Poirier, who has one of the greatest stories in UFC history. Just when it looked like his career was winding down, he had a resurgence about 4 years ago and hasn't looked back. Even though he lost to Khabib, he's just still been there. But then, if you compare that to the co-main event, you have Amanda Nunes, who, without question, is the greatest female mixed martial artist of all time, going up against someone who she has bad blood with in Juliana Pena. However, if Pena wins this fight, this will be Buster Douglas Mike Tyson 2.0. It will be. Because no one in their right mind expects Nunes to give this one up. Pena is a great grappler. I get it. She trains in Spokane, Washington, which is where she's from. She's teammates with Michael Chiesa. So on the ground, she is sound. She knows what she's doing. But she's not Amanda Nunes. And that's why I say the main event, it's a pick'em. The co-main event, it's Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas. It should be the sheep being fed to the slaughter. But if there was an upset, this is an upset of epic proportion.
Yeah, I wrote an article on it on the 2 title fights. It's the first time that 2 Brazilians are headlining the card, both defending their belts. So I thought that was really interesting. And as far as the title fights go, like you said, main event, pick them, whichever you like. But Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, I have a weird feeling about this. Not saying Amanda's going to lose, because I would never. But I do think Pena is going to give her the hardest, maybe not the hardest fight she's ever had, but a very hard fight. I do think she'll be able to survive the first round, which is in and of itself is saying a lot against Amanda. I know Felicia Spencer went the distance with her, but that's at 45. I do think Pena gets out of the first round. I do not think she makes it to the bell. And I do think Amanda has her way. But I do think that's going to be a closer fight than a lot of people's. I see the line now. It's minus 900 for Amanda, which is ridiculous. The last time we seen a favorite like this was Chimaev. I think he was like minus 850. So just goes to show the type of dominance we expect from Amanda. And then Jeff Neal, Ponzinibbio returning. That's going to be crazy. That fight has to end in a knockout. Someone's going to sleep. KOTY's flyweight debut, No Love Garbrandt against Don't Blink Kai Car France. His nickname is Don't Blink for a reason. I think Kai gets the job done. And then obviously we got the Sugar Show kicking the night off against Julian Paiva. That's going to be a good fight. I think we finally get to see Sean O'Malley fighting a guy who is ranked above him. People will perceive that Paiva is some nobody if Sean O'Malley makes him look bad, but it's just really Sean O'Malley is really, really that good. But yeah, overall, this is a great card. Like you said, one of the best of the year. Love that it finishes off the year. But I'll be straight with you. I read your article, Mike. I'm not rolling with your Dustin over Oliveira pick, man.
Okay.
Especially you picked was it 4th round knockout? 4th round TKO? Now, in my opinion, if this fight gets to the 4th round, Dustin won. It's not going that far, is where I'm getting to. I don't see how Oliveira loses this fight. I think and let me preface this because Sergio Pettis has just learned me something just last week. So let me rephrase that. Poirier's one chance of winning this fight, in my opinion, is to get close, stay close, but not get grabbed. So if you can have like a Poirier-Gaethje type of fight in the pocket or a Hooker-Poirier fight where it's all in the pocket, yeah, Poirier will win. But if this is a technical matchup or even a brawl, like people think Dustin's some brawler. Dustin is not a brawler, but I think Oliveira has him technically in all areas of mixed martial arts.
Not striking. Everywhere but striking. On the ground, yes. Striking, no.
I think Oliveira's – I don't think kicks are even a question. Oliveira kicks.
Sure.
Dustin calf kicks occasionally. It's an American Top Team thing, so he has to do it. But Dustin's not a kicker. We talking striking. Oliveira has elbows, uppercuts. You saw the left hook that put Michael Chandler out. And I'll turn it over to you. But I do like one thing Charles Oliveira said in his pre-fight interview. Justin Gaethje, along with Michael Chandler, along with a few other lightweights, have all stated Charles Oliveira has no heart. Oh, if you push him, he'll quit. If you do that, blah, 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 right? Okay, cool. Oliveira just going out, beating dudes, stopping them. Okay, cool. Justin Gaethje says Charles Oliveira is weak. Dustin's going to break him. And if he wins, Justin said, okay, if Dustin can't do it, I'll break you. Charles Oliveira replied, I don't know if you saw, he said, look, Justin said, I'm weak and I break easily. He said, I knocked Michael Chandler out with my left hand. You had 15 minutes and you couldn't knock Michael Chandler out. So what does that make you? Checkmate. And I think that, even though it has nothing to do with Poirier, I think that type of confidence translates into a fight. And I think Oliveira is going to get an early finish.
It could translate because, look, although I'm picking against Oliveira, this is not Charles Oliveira from 2012 when he was a featherweight and he would literally quit on the stool. He would say, I don't want this anymore. I'm done. That's literally the conversations he has had in his corner in fights. Guess what, though? We're almost 10 years removed from that. This guy is on a 9-fight winning streak. Dustin Poirier said it perfectly. A lot of people are picking Dustin Poirier to win this fight, myself included. But if you think Charles Oliveira doesn't have a chance, then you don't know fighting. Because Charles Oliveira against Michael Chandler had Chandler not only hurt from strikes, but had a deep submission choke on Chandler and was seconds away from pulling it off. There's a chance that could happen again. But the reason why I'm rolling with Poirier is because I think all around he is a more sound fighter. Poirier has fought Justin Gaethje before, beat him. He was the first person to ever stop Conor McGregor. And didn't do it once. He did it twice after he was stopped 7 years prior. Dustin Poirier has been around too long, I think, to find himself in a situation like he was in against Khabib. Because guess what? Khabib is a one of one. I'm not taking anything away from Oliveira. Again, one of the greatest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts in UFC history. That's what Charles Oliveira is. But he's not Khabib. And by that I mean he's not unbeatable. Dustin Poirier, I think, there will be a moment where Oliveira will have his hands down, because at times he does, and Poirier is going to crack him. There is a problem, though. If you try to go in for the kill, you're dealing with someone who almost snapped off Tony Ferguson's arm. Yeah. That's how good Charles Oliveira is on the ground. So it's a catch-22. You can hurt him, and you can try to stop him, like Michael Chandler tried to do, but Chandler also paid the price for that, too, because he did it too close to the end of a round, let all the gas out of his tank, and then ended up losing in the second round to Oliveira. I don't think Poirier makes the same mistake. I think if Poirier in the fourth round catches Oliveira on the feet, he's going to make the most of it. He won't tire himself out. He'll do it at the right time. And I think he gets a stoppage there because Poirier, I think, is trending in the right direction right now. And so is Oliveira. That goes without saying. He's the champion, for crying out loud. But Poirier, for so many people, was the uncrowned champ. Now it's time for Poirier to show what he's really made of. If he wins this fight over Oliveira, there will be talks of Poirier being one of the greatest lightweights of all time and one of the best pound-for-pound fighters right now. And again, everything I'm saying about Poirier, you could say about Oliveira. I just see it differently than you do. I think Poirier is a very well-rounded fighter, and Poirier almost submitted Khabib. He had Khabib in trouble. He might be able to do that to Oliveira.
I want to make a few points that I haven't seen anyone else make. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. So I when I was thinking of it, I thought I was wrong. And I'm like, why is no one talking about this? To me, now, obviously they have to weigh in championship weight 155. To me, aside from Khabib, this is the only time Dustin has fought anybody who's bigger than him.
Yeah.
And now Khabib is shorter than him, but obviously we know Khabib walks around north of 200 pounds. So I'm not talking about height, but Oliveira is taller than him. And I think Dustin will be in for a surprise when they finally do grapple and clinch. Oliveira's not as I'm not saying the guys he fought were weak, but Oliveira's not going to be as small as Poirier thinks. And I think that will have an effect on this fight. I think technically speaking, Charles Oliveira is very, 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 very technically sound. Also on an upward trajectory. Let's just put this in perspective. He is on an insane finishing streak, aside from the Tony Ferguson fight, which was a 3-round decision.
Should have been a finish, by the way.
Should have been a finish. If he had 2 more seconds, Tony's arm would have popped out and Herb would have stopped the fight. But he's been on a finishing streak. Let me just give you the rundown real quick. So he loses to Paul Felder by TKO in 2017, right? After this, submission over Clay Guida, submission over Christos Giagos, submission over Jim Miller, submission over David Timar, who he dropped with an uppercut and should have been a TKO. Mind you, all these submissions, most of these submissions should have been TKOs. For anybody else, they'd be TKOs. But he's so smooth and slick with jiu-jitsu. If he drops you, I'd rather go for a guillotine than finishing. Less blood. Okay, continuing. Knocks out Nick Lentz, nasty. Knocks out Jared Gordon, nasty. Submits Kevin Lee with a guillotine, nasty. Tony Ferguson, okay. Michael Chandler knocks Michael Chandler out. Justin Gaethje just fought Michael Chandler a month ago and did not knock Michael Chandler out. And we all think of Justin Gaethje as having, if not the best hands at 55, some of the best hands, knockout power, whatever you want to call it, exciting fighting, whatever you want to call it. Oliveira put him out. Chandler's chin has been tested. He's been knocked out before. I don't want to make it seem like he has an Iron Man chin, but I think this is the fight Charles gets his just due. When you win a vacant title, they always say, oh, but Khabib would have won, you beat Michael Chandler. Oh, but he's a Bellator guy. He didn't really earn it. Okay. Now, if and when he beats Dustin Poirier, this will solidify him and people will stop looking at Dustin as the uncrowned champ. Because I do agree with you. People do look at Dustin as the uncrowned champ. Oh, he could have fought you and could have took the belt, but he fought Conor for a 3rd time instead. And people blame Oliveira like it's his fault. Oliveira's only fought who they put in front of him, and he's beaten who they put in front of him and finished. I don't see this going to the cards. I only see it going to the ground if Oliveira wants to fight on the ground.
There's a possibility of that. Anything can happen, right? Because look, if Michael Chandler can drop you, I think Dustin Poirier can. Chandler has power, but so does Poirier. Poirier was the same guy in a scrap, got the best of Dan Hooker. And I think that kind of hurt Dan Hooker's career to an extent. And then, like I said, completely changed his life around by beating Conor McGregor, not once, but twice. So anything can happen. Oliveira can get hurt, but also Oliveira too is a pretty darn good striker. That's something that Poirier can't overlook, and I don't think he is. Oliveira knows what he's doing on the feet. Everyone thinks he's this primarily a jiu-jitsu practitioner. No, he can box too. That's why I think, to me, this is a pick'em fight. I can't fault anybody for picking one person when someone else picks the other. That's the definition of a pick'em. I may have Poirier, but I could totally see a scenario where Oliveira wins.
Yeah, I view it the same. If Dustin does win, I think it's because the old Oliveira shows up and it's like a quit thing. I don't think he can. I really genuinely don't believe he can knock Oliveira's lights out. And Poirier has knockout power, but usually his knockouts are like more of a war of attrition type of
it's built up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not just one shot and dudes putting them down.
He can, though. He can. If need be, he can.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying he can't, but I think he needs those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the fence just swinging. And then eventually, yeah, Gaethje's going to drop. Like, okay, yeah, I get you just hit him 7 times in the head. But I think this is going to be a great fight nonetheless. I think if it does go the distance, this has potential to steal all the fight of the year noise because it's the latest fight and it's for a title and it's two guys who we all know and love. And I love Dustin Poirier. I don't mean to pick against him in disdain or anything like that, but you know, him fighting a guy who I presume to be bigger than him for the first time in a long time may have an effect on that. And Dustin won't be able to use his wrestling because no one wants to be on the ground with Charles Oliveira. I'm sorry, you just don't want to be down there. But Charles will take Dustin down. I think Charles, if he does get clipped or something, he can get Dustin to the ground. And I don't think Dustin has anything off his back that Charles hasn't seen before. But at the end of the day, 2 more sleeps and we'll find out. So I'm hype. Obviously, I'm assuming you have Amanda. I have Amanda.
Yep.
Yeah, we can go through the rest of the card. We'll have a 269 pre-fight show on Saturday. We'll fill you guys in on more details for the remainder of the card. Other than that, Mike, is there anything else the streets need right now?
No. Saturday night's going to be a great night of fights, by the way. You got UFC and you got Lomachenko-Comey, which you can check both previews out on our website, twsn.net.
Yes, sir. We have previews for both of those guys. And again, make sure you follow us, subscribe. Strikes and submissions, we out. Peace.
Get up, let me be.